Hi, everybody, and welcome to another dose of virtual vitamin Z. Today, we have a very interesting topic. Today, our topic is Bigfoot. Okay, so our topic isn't actually Bigfoot, but our topic is big ecological footprints. So this is part one of a two-part series on ecological footprints. And today we're going to be asking the question, are you an ecological Bigfoot? In other words, what is an ecological footprint and how do we calculate them? And what is your ecological footprint? So the terms we're going to be using include ecological footprint, and then we're going to be building our mathematical literacy. So we're also going to be using terms like length, width, multiplication, area, and ratio. So to answer that question, what is an ecological footprint? Well, an ecological footprint is a measurement. And in particular, it's a measurement of a person's impact on the environment. And more specifically, it refers to the amount of land required to support a person's consumption of natural resources. And sometimes you'll see it in terms of what's called a hectare, which is a unit of measurement that's about the size of 2 football fields side by side. Sometimes you'll see it in terms of earths. How many earths would it take to support the world if everybody had the same ecological footprint that you do? And then you can also think about it, and I'll talk about this a little bit more later, in terms of our overshoot day, and I'll explain that in a moment. So you might be thinking, okay, I kind of understand this now, but how do I calculate it? And that's a great question. And fortunately, there's a really great resource that we can use to do this. All we have to do is go to this website, which is footprintcalculator.org. And I'm going to go to this website to show you what it looks like. So you click on that link, and we'll end up here. And you'll see this link right here, or this page right here. And the question is, what is your ecological footprint? And you might notice that that plane flying across saying that overshoot day is August 22nd, 2020. And that's coming up just later this week, which is one of the reasons why I chose this topic for this week. And I'll explain what that means in just a little bit. But what you can do is you can start by taking the first step. You can click take the first step. And it'll ask you some questions. And the questions are questions about your food consumption, as well as your transportation habits and your housing situation. And I'm not going to go through all of these. It takes about 5 minutes to complete, but you just answer this question, and then you'll click next and answer the next question and keep going through. And at the very end, what'll happen is that it'll show you your ecological footprint. And one way that it does that is in terms of Earths. So in my case, my ecological footprint is 2.5 Earths. And what that means is that if everybody on Earth lived the way I do, we would actually need 2.5 Earths full of natural resources to live sustainably. So that's kind of, that's an unfortunate realization because obviously there aren't extra planet Earths around that we can just go to. So that's a signal that I personally need to start living more sustainably and minimizing my ecological footprint. Another way of thinking about it, you can see here it says 24 May, and that's my overshoot date. And what that means is I can get to the 24th of May before I start my resource use is actually overshooting the Earth's capacity to support me. So, and you saw that the whole planet's overshoot date is August 22nd. So it's a little bit longer, but still, as a planet, we are overshooting our Earth's ability to support us well before the year ends. And here's another way of thinking about it. You can think about it in terms of hectares, and a hectare, again, is 2 football fields side by side. And my ecological footprint is 4.3 of those. So it's about 8 to 9 football fields side by side of land that I need to grow food, to grow the other resources that I need to live my daily life. And so this is, pretty shocking. There's also a resource, I'll get to this actually in part 2 tomorrow, but there's a resource where we can compare our own ecological footprints to other people's in our own countries, in our own areas, as well as throughout the world. And then fortunately, there are some concrete solutions that we can start implementing right away to minimize or reduce our ecological footprints. And I'm going to address those in part 2 as well. But right now, I want to go on to an activity. And the activity is creating your ecological feat. And the attitudes, knowledge, and skills that you'll develop doing this include an increased sense of responsibility, increased knowledge about our impacts on the environment, and then strengthening our mathematical literacy. And the supplies will need to include a computer with internet access, and then a paper and a pencil to do some calculations, and cardboard, ruler, marker, scissors, and string to create those ecological feet. And I'm going to share these instructions with you just in text, but then I'll also walk you through. So first of all, you're going to want to go to that website and use and calculate your own ecological footprint. And then you're going to want to measure the area of your foot. And then you're going to multiply the area of your foot by your ecological footprint. And then take the square root, and that'll give you basically a square that represents your ecological footprint. And then you're going to actually draw that square on cardboard, cut it out, and poke some holes and put some string there so you can tie it to your feet. And then I know this sounds a little bit silly, but you're going to walk around with that ecological foot on your real feet and reflect on the difference in those sizes and start to reflect on, all right, what can I do to change this? And then if you tune in tomorrow at the same time, 4 o'clock, I'll give you some concrete ways that you can start reducing your ecological footprint. All right, so here it is in picture form. Got a piece of paper because the first thing we're going to do is, this is my piece of paper. I'm going to record my ecological footprint in terms of Earths. So 2.5 Earths over 1 Earth. I'm going to write it that way, and that's a ratio. And I'll explain why I'm writing it that way in a minute. And then rather than measure my foot, I measured my shoe using centimeters. And so it was 28.5 centimeters long by 11.5 centimeters wide. Multiplied those to get a total footprint area of 327.75 square centimeters. And now I'm going to do this. I'm going to multiply my my ecological footprint, or my ecological foot, by my ecological footprint. So I'm going to multiply the area of my foot. Sorry, I shouldn't have said it that way. The area of my foot by my ecological footprint. And I'm showing it this way to show you what it looks like. But all you really need to do is multiply the area of your foot, cross multiply it by your ecological footprint. And that gives me an ecological foot that has an area of 819.375 square centimeters. So that's helpful, but that's kind of hard to picture what a square like that would be. So I'm going to take the square root of that, and that's about 29 centimeters. And so now I know that if my ecological foot were a square, each side would be 29 centimeters long. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get some cardboard and a ruler and a marker and actually draw out what that square would look like. And then I'm going to cut it out and use a pencil to poke some holes in it, and then some string to create a way to tie it onto my foot. Then I'm going to repeat that process to create my second ecological foot. And then I tied them to my feet. And I actually spent some time walking around like this. So here's a quick video of me walking around with my ecological feet. And as you can see, it was a little awkward. It kind of felt like walking in snowshoes, but not quite as fun, partly because there was no snow, and also partly because I realized that it was reflecting that I have a pretty big impact on the environment and need to work on that for sure. So that's today's activity. And like I said, if you tune in tomorrow at 4, I'm going to share some concrete ways that you can start reducing your ecological footprint in the form of another activity that involves those ecological feet. So be sure to bring those with you to tomorrow's activity. Now, if you can't wait until tomorrow, you can definitely check out that website and look at their concrete solutions and start implementing them. No need to wait for tomorrow, but I do encourage you to tune in because I think it'll be a fun activity, but also an activity that'll help us start to make some concrete steps in the direction of minimizing our ecological footprints. And that leads me back to the Berman Academy for Humane Education here at the Detroit Zoological Society. And we have the mission of helping people help animals, but we also talk about this idea of walking softly. And understanding the size of your ecological footprint is an important first step in knowing how you can more effectively walk softly on this earth. So I hope that this has been beneficial for you. And as I said, be sure to tune in tomorrow at 4 for the next part of this lesson. Until then, stay safe and have a great day. Bye.